duo are founders of BharathGyan, a forerunner in Indian civilizational study to compile and present knowledge about the Indian civilization and its global connect over millennia through an indirect narrative. They have 20 years of professional experience in management and IT. They started BharathGyan Research in the year 2000. They have so far collated over 500 hours of multimedia content in over 108 different subjects and published 100 books as part of autobiography of India collection, besides 5 documentary films, more than 500 short films, more than 500 blog articles. They are visiting faculty for Indian knowledge system in universities in India and overseas, as well as for various faculty development programs. We welcome you, ma'am and sir. Over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Deepika, for that very nice introduction. Before we proceed, we'd like to thank Professor A.K. Singh for inviting us to be part of this group, and to Dr. Shika for coordinating this over the last couple of weeks on this subject. Thank you so much to all of you. Now, getting on to the subject of Indian knowledge system, which is the subject of the next 1 hour. One distinctive feature that we'll see is when we talk about Indian knowledge system, visually, we equate it with a tree. And this has been going on for millennia, not just centuries, millennia. But almost about 100 years ago, it was Shri Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, whom we reverentially call as Mahatma Gandhi. He made a statement about equating the Indian knowledge system with a tree, and he called it the beautiful tree. This he did in England, in a place called near London, in a place called Chatham House. We'll just share that slide for you all to see. Just give us one more. We'll just get the slide up, please. Yeah. So he called this. He said before the colonists came to India, he said India had a vibrant education system. Both India and Burma, and the British, when they came here, they sort of scratched it, exposed the roots, and allowed it to perish. That is a tree that's been there for millennia, more than a few millennia, was allowed to perish by mandate that happened. And he was asked to prove his case, but unfortunately he could not. So what happened was, after he came back to India, he had to unfortunately be jailed in Pune. So it fell upon actually one of his disciples then. So this is the beautiful tree, which a young child is looking askance, which is not there anymore. And that's what happened. This is an old sketch. It's not something that we have done. The sketch itself is almost many decades old. So there was a British outcry when he made the statement, and he was asked to prove his statement or take it back. Unfortunately, as I said, he could not do it because he was jailed after that when he came back to India. It fell upon this person, Shri Dharampal, a sociologist who happened to live in London then. He took records from the East India Office Library, collated it, and created a house and showed how there indeed was a beautiful tree. And why? So this is as far as the 100-year-old story is concerned. We'll get on to this point a little later. Now we'll get on to what was this beautiful tree for next half an hour.
So to understand this beautiful tree, we are to then therefore understand what is this today that we call as Indian knowledge system. So this beautiful tree is what today we are calling as the Indian knowledge system. And what is this Indian knowledge system, which was this beautiful tree? And to understand that, we have to actually look at a couple of things. So when we look at knowledge itself, there are three aspects to knowledge. One, that can ensure your physical well-being, because you have to live. See, every individual, we all know today, we, especially from the Indian thought, and it's come more and more, it's come back into acceptance. Many people are now aware of this. There was a time in between where we had lost this perspective, and this perspective is now getting seeded once again, and it's coming back, where we realize that we are more than just the people, that flesh and blood that people can see us as. So the physical aspect is one, for which we therefore need physical knowledge to keep our body in good shape, and how to feed it, and how do you sustain the physical existence. Then our intellectual being. So we are all intellectual beings as well. So how do you feed and keep this intellectual being alive? Because we are different intellectually. See, physically we are different, that we can see. Intellectually, that we are different, we get to realize when we interact. And also we are a spiritual being as well. We are a bundle of emotions too. So we are also a spiritual being. So we are beings at three different levels. I mean, if you go into the Upanishads, you will see finer granularity, but at a larger, you will see these three levels. And for these three levels, we have had appropriate forms of education. So we have had skilling to keep you, and it's a beautiful thing, and which comes out when you look at the word for skills in Hindi. It is kaushal, right? So we talk about kala and kaushal, the Sanskrit rooted word, and look at the word, associated word, kushal. Kushal means comfort, well-being. So what is skill? Skill is that which provides you the ability to, today we can say, earn a livelihood, but it is that which gives you the ability to live in comfort, to be well, to look after yourself, your body at a physical level. So skilling is those a set of skills that address your physical being and its well-being as well. And then for your intellectual being, at the intellectual state that you are in, you need knowledge, you need answers to why, how, what. And these are the answers that go back and influence your skilling too, because they start improving your skilling ability.
See, here she said, no, the question, the value, the idea of asking questions, why, what, where. This sort of asking questions itself is a very unique form of Indian knowledge system. The asking of questions, because you may think it is, you would find this in modern education, but fundamentally we'll see as we go along how it's the idea of questioning everything and anything in a logical way through tarka is a basis of the Indian knowledge system, which we'll see. The questioning is that's unique to us. It's unique to Indian knowledge system. We'll see as we go along.
So for nourishing your intellectual being, you need the sciences. You need the education of sciences as well. And sciences here, it doesn't mean just physics, chemistry, biology, even science of economics, science of literature, science of grammar. They're all sciences because they address the fundamentals of that particular knowledge base.
So that is Vijnana. That's what we call in Indian knowledge. So we, there meaning special, in depth. That's what we call Vijnana sciences. Look at the Jnana with the prefix of Vijnana, where you go in depth.
So from the in-depth, you then climb into the jnana part, which addresses your spiritual and emotional being. And for this, you need the moral and value-based education. So look at the entire gamut of education you need, the spectrum you need for keeping one individual going. You need that individual to be skilled and to be able to live. Whatever be your intellectual state, you still need to live in physical. So physical to intellectual to your spiritual well-being. So all of these together form your knowledge system. And you need all these forms of knowledge. And all of these, if you look at it, therefore, lead to 5 aspects in which an entire knowledge system has to be viewed. So I'm sure most of you are from the educationist field. I mean, in one way or the other, you're all connected with academics. And you will all realize this. You would have realized it in the course of your experience itself, that first and foremost, you need to have a knowledge content. So when you talk about a knowledge system, it is not just the knowledge. First and foremost, the knowledge itself is of all these 3 varieties, which caters to the 3 states of being. And this knowledge, there is the content, and there has to be a delivery system, a delivery mechanism, which is what you're all a part of. Now, it is not enough if we have the content. We need the delivery system to reach it out effectively. And what purpose are you taking this delivery out for? Why are you reaching it to people? Because it can be applied. It needs to be applied. So there has to be a set of applications. Just a moment. So there has to be a set of applications that this knowledge can be applied for. Now, what is the purpose then of this application? It has to meet some need. Need of what? The society. So the society as it exists. So that is very important. At that point in time is very, very important, because that brings in the relevance. So this application is important. It has to be relevant to society of that time. At the same time, it cannot be devoid of the values and the ultimate intention. And what is the intention? It is the sustainability. Why are we living in a society? Why are we all looking to do all of this? Just so that we can all live. And living is sustenance. So sustainability, not just of oneself, while we think we are more focused on our living, unless we address the living of the entire ecosystem around us, we also cannot live. So towards that, what are the values that need to be held so that this knowledge can be applied relevantly and purposefully and sustainably. So these are 3 things. While today we focus only on this, to some extent we are giving attention to this, but these 3 are equally important, and which each of us have to realize when we are in the education system.
Thank you, Komalji, for your point you mentioned. Yes, Bhagavad Gita is all about dialogue. It's not only Bhagavad Gita. Every aspect of Indian knowledge, for Upanishad, the very word Upanishad, near. So it's all about question answers. Everywhere, all major texts, including Rasayana, the text of chemistry, is a dialogue between Shiva and Pari, the earliest text. So like everywhere, that's the beauty of Indian knowledge system. Is not a sermon, but it's a 2-way dialogue, or even a multi-way dialogue. Multi-log. That's what's the beauty of our Indian knowledge system, is what we are to see. And that is where the tree also indicates, which we'll see as we go along.
So all of this, therefore, we are, when we say we mean our civilization, the Indian civilization, the Bharatiya civilization, has always maintained it as a tree. And what we have done is, we have been working in the aspect of compiling the knowledge of this Indian civilization in various disciplines, in various aspects and various applications and so on. And all that we collated actually gave us a good view into the education system itself of the civilization, and that we compiled, and as well as to how is it relevant in the current context of the terminology Indian knowledge system. And we actually had called ourselves BharathGyan rightfully when we started it more than 25 years ago. When we started this endeavor, we were in search of the name for this, and we said, oh, but this is nothing but Bharat Ka Gyan. So BharathGyan, knowledge of the civilization, knowledge about the civilization, which has been used for the civilization. So we brought out a book. I will show you where it is so that after this class, you can always go and browse through it. You will have to come to our website, BharathGyan.com. I'll show you how to get there too. So it is BharathGyan, BharathGyan, Gyan.com. You can also do BharathGyan. And if you scroll down, we have a section here which is called films. If you click on this, it will take you to a playlist of a number of films that you can watch at your leisure. But here is the link that will be of interest, mini books. If you come to mini books, we write, and this entire collection, we call it as the autobiography of India. So we have a book here, which can be read online. That's why we call it mini book vis-a-vis books, which are printed and are available on Kindle. Here, these you can read on our website. You click on this, the Indian knowledge system. It will open up here itself. So you don't need any specific software. You can read it from the website. And this, we will get into this book. We'll be covering different aspects from this. But the first thing, since we are talking about a tree, we therefore represented this Indian knowledge system itself as a tree, which we are all born to. We have so many educational institutes which have logos of a tree. And very beautifully, if you look at it, most of us have chosen banyan tree as the logo, right? Many educational institutions in India, they use the banyan tree as a logo.
Ficus.
This is because we are a civilization where we have given knowledge a very high prominence. And in this knowledge system also, it has been kept alive through something which we have very beautifully cultivated called the Guru Sishya Parampara, right? We all talk about this Guru Sishya Parampara. And what else than the banyan tree to depict this very, very visually? See, every tree is actually, in that sense, it's a parampara, because it is from the seed of that tree, you get the next tree, right? So we all know another tree comes from the seed of this. I mean, which is also true for man. The son is the father of man, and so on. So you have that idea, but the banyan tree shows that to you visually also, because of these aerial roots. You can see the continuity. See, even if you say a seed, the tree is different, the seed is a different form, and so you may fail to see the connectivity, but when you look at a banyan tree, it's right there in front of you. With its roots, it's giving rise to the next tree right in front of you. So the continuity is very beautifully depicted in the case of a banyan tree, and it grows, it keeps spreading wider and wider and wider, which is how knowledge keeps spreading wider and wider. Each Sishya goes, forms his own set of students, takes it forward, and that's how it goes. So the banyan tree that way is a most ideal pictorial depiction of the knowledge system. And we therefore chose this, and we have interestingly put certain animals here, animals and birds. And
each of them actually have a significance. Each animal And each bird that we have put here has very specific. Yes, yes, Rajiv, yes, because the Indian knowledge system is inclusive. Obviously, yes, because the whole system is inclusive, and what we bring out is obviously inclusive too, Rajiv ji. Can you show? We'll just show you the some of
This
the
image.
see if we'll just try to make the image slightly bigger for all of you to see. Look at this. In the Indian knowledge system, if you see, we have the bird Hamsa on the top. And all of you know Hansa denotes that which can separate Sat from Asat, milk from water, wheat from chaff. So in knowledge, what you need is the idea of separating. So that's key
discernment.
Discern, absolutely. Discernment. Then you have the parrot for Shuka Brahma Rishi. Shuka, that's what he, because of the way of.
So Indian knowledge system has always given high importance to learning by rote as well. So today we tend to dismiss the idea of learning by rote. But if you look at it, this knowledge system, repetition, learning by repeating and learning by memorizing in your mind has been given a lot of importance, and it has been stressed on early in education itself. So the idea has always been that in your young age, you are taught to learn by rote and memorize most of this information, which you learn and understand as you keep growing older. And then you start the sciences and the knowledge behind whatever you have learned by rote is then revealed to you as you keep getting older and older.
Then the other bird that you have shown
so
here.
That is what is shown by the parrot because of its ability to repeat, and which is why you will find that Veda Vyasa, Maharishi Veda Vyasa's son is Shuka Brahma Rishi, and he is a person who actually propagated the Veda. While Veda Vyasa compiled it, he propagated it, and which means that it is by a process of repetition. So he is given a parrot face.
Rajiv, thanks for bringing up the point. Look at the word. See, we today, unfortunately, in English, use the word tribal knowledge because the term tribal there itself has got a very derogatory, unfortunately, derogatory connotation of being something inferior. No. In Indian knowledge, what we today call tribal, actually called Vanavasi, people who lived in the Vana. People who lived in the villages were called Gramavasi. And people who lived in the towns were called Nagaravasi. So the Janajati, the people, the population comprised of Vanavasi, Gramavasi, and Nagaravasi, who had a composite role to play in each of the places, geographical places they lived in evolving this beautiful tree and taking care of different components of it. So the idea of the tree of knowledge is not limited only to the Grama or the Gurukula, but also obviously to the Vana forest. And that's why you have the idea of Vanavasi. Unfortunately, during colonial rule, they brought in this concept of tribal and made it look as if they're inferior. No. But for the Vanavasi, your 30% of your forest would not have existed much before your forest laws that came into existence in the last so many decades. And forest officers. So they have the actual people right from Mahabharata time, Ramayana time. They've been looking after the wealth of the land, which are forests. So it's an important component of it. Now going on to the other bird that we show here, the partridge. Titr. Okay, look at the idea of Titr, from which comes your Taittiriya Upanishad. The other aspect we show is the honeycomb. Because knowledge is assimilated, collected all over from bits and pieces, like how the honeybee collects knowledge from all over and brings it to one place. Ikatta karke, he brings to one place. Look at the beauty of it. So that is how always shown it.
Because the Indian knowledge system itself is something which has been collected across generations. So many of these texts that we have today, they are compilations across many generations, across many Guru Sishya Parampara as well. So that is very, so we thought a honeycomb symbolizes, see, some of these are things that innately represent the aspects of the Indian knowledge system.
Similarly, we have shown a frog. Here, see that below there, we showed a frog. It represents Mandukya Upanishad. Like that, we have shown horses, the Indian variety of horses, not the Arabic horses, but the Indian variety of horses, because they represent
the voice, the horse's voice, because that is why one of the divinities itself is higher grieve. So for knowledge, they associate with higher grieve. Grieve is for neck, and higher, the horse, the neighing sound is very clear and sharp. So people in the knowledge system, they have to have a good voice with which they can articulate, and there has to be clarity both in order, in the sound and in the knowledge that they are articulating. The speech and the knowledge that they're communicating, it has to have clarity, should come out with clarity, and all of that is represented by the horse and its
grieve. Look at the word.
sound.
Higher grieva. Grieva means the neck, which is the animal that has the long neck. And what do you call it in the language of English now? The long neck animal, the grieva, which has got a long grieva. And what's the etymological similarity? The giraffe. Giraffe is called giraffe because of its long neck. And what do we call the neck in Indian languages? Grieva. Look at this similarity, phonetic similarity too. So it goes back. So the Indian knowledge system is a repository of phonetics and many such aspects, isn't it? So going on to that, we have shown you one more thing here, the Indian goat. What does it represent? It represents for us the idea of Daksha Prajapati. Daksha Prajapati. And what is the word Daksha? In Daksha Prajapati, he is the leader of people who leads people. But what is the word Daksha? In the languages mean. In English, we get to have the idea of Daksha as dexterity. Look at the English word phonetically, dexterity, what we call Daksha. And how do we show the idea of Daksha? We show it as a goat, because a goat, especially an Indian mountain goat, is so dexterous. It can climb different gradients and angles with ease and dexterity. So
slippery rocks.
So how symbolically we show different things of beauty. The other aspect we have showed here is the deer. Look at this, the beauty of deer. Why isn't we show deer?
So deer, actually, you will find in two ways it is connected in signs of Buddhism. You will find deer as part of the symbol along the neck, flanking the Dharma Chakra in Buddhism.
Especially
for two reasons. One, when Buddha gave his first sermon, the Upadesha, and this was in just outskirts of present-day Varanasi, you have Sarnath. So there, and the place gets its name because there were deer there in that park there, which were witness to this sermon. So
the first Upadesha of Gautama Buddha Siddhartha.
And deer are an animal which also represent agility and alertness. Deers are very, very alert, very sensitive to sounds, so that, they're always cautious. They are making sure that the predators aren't around. So they have to be always alert. So, and they are very quick as well. They're very agile. So they represent agility, alertness, as well as they are signs of harmony, compassion. Doe-eyed deer, nothing like a doe-eyed deer for its compassion.
Mriganayani.
So many aspects come in the deer, and they were also witness to, they were recipients of that knowledge standing there. So that is how Buddhism, deer are very closely connected with Buddhism, and which is also in a way a sense of what Indian knowledge system tries to ensure that its students must possess. It insists on the harmony. It insists on the compassion, values of compassion. It insists by various practices that you stay alert. both as a student and also later on in life. And agility is something that it also impresses upon fundamentally through the various regimen that a student has to follow during a student life. So all of this is symbolized by this deer. Now, the most relevant aspect of all of this is all this knowledge, whatever all these symbols that they represent, what do they go towards? Which is what we saw in the 5 aspects. It is sustainability and sustenance. So all of this are to remind us that this land is blessed with Mother Nature's bountiful blessings in the form of water, rains, and various other natural resources. And how do you use all this knowledge to conserve, protect, use them, but at the same time, keep them sustained? How do you live in harmony with all of this resources and the ecology around us? So that is very, very important. And that is what we have tried to show by symbolizing through this water. So when you talk about Indian knowledge system, what is it an Indian knowledge system? How do you describe Indian knowledge system? Then these are some of the various aspects.
The ecosystem around it, the tree system around, because it's not enough if you just show a tree and say, okay, it's all only to do with a tree. No, there's a whole ecosystem of both flora and fauna that come with the knowledge system. So that is why we wanted to take up components and highlight how it's a total ecosystem is what we have. And we have had this and recognized this symbolically through the millennia, not just centuries. So when Shri Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, whom we reverentially refer to as Mahatma Gandhi, that's why when he said the beautiful tree, he just didn't call it a tree. He called it a beautiful tree because these facets, these components add to make it a beautiful tree. That is why when Shri Dharampalji, few decades later, compiled this book, he called it the beautiful tree. Many people, so since not only the last 1 century, but for millennia, we always looked at the beautiful tree. We look at, as we go along next half an hour, we look at little more aspects. This book, along with all these explanations, is available there in our website for your perusal, for your free browsing. You can go anytime. Whatever you said here is already written in detail there.
So today, when we are looking at the Indian knowledge system as a whole, as a system itself, not just only as the knowledge alone, but for this knowledge, how do you take it out? How do you reach it? Because this form of knowledge has its own needs in terms of how it has to be disseminated, how it can be reached, and what is the purpose of this knowledge itself. Unless you relate to the ethos of this knowledge is not going to be of any use to you. So the ethos, in the sense of what is the kind of application it is designed for, and what are the values that guide these kind of applications. So fundamentally, if this Indian knowledge system, since all of you, we presuming are going to work in the sphere of Indian knowledge system, which is why you're part of this conference's study program. This Indian knowledge system, therefore, has these 5 levels of need which have to be addressed, right from aware. Pardon me. Yeah, right from awareness. Okay. Ankuji, I think your mic, if you could mute it, it's picking up certain sounds, surround sounds. Or unless you have a question, do you have a question, Ankuji? Do you like to say something? All right. So from awareness, so step 1 is awareness. So what is Indian knowledge system has to be made, people have to be made aware of this particular aspect of knowledge. And then appreciation.
Because appreciation can come only with this awareness. You can't have appreciation without awareness.
मम्मी टीवी देख लो ना, क्या हुआ, टॉयलेट गई थी? और क्या करा ये
Anku ji,
और ऐसे फेंक दिया कहीं पे भी
the
Could you please
host
mute yourself?
mute?
हैं
Or can the host can do it, please?
Can the
Miss
host?
Anku,
Host,
could you please?
host can do it, please, because you would have the rights.
Yeah,
Host rights
so-
should have.
तो ऐसे क्यों फेंका यहाँ पे पहन लिए सलवार मम्मी बीच
I'll
सड़क में
just get that done. Apologies for the inconvenience, sir.
No problem, no issues.
गंदे होंगे पैर भी
Ankuji, we request you
सब
to please
गंदे
kindly
होंगे
switch off.
हाँ हो गया. Okay.
Sorry for the interruption,
Right.
ma'am.
No problem. Yeah. And each of this, so actually it's these 5, they are kind of a wheel of dependency because they each feed and they sustain the other aspect, the different layers, the different aspects of the Indian knowledge system. So right from awareness, with after that comes the appreciation. So unless you're aware, you're not going to appreciate. And unless you appreciate, a person learns to appreciate the Indian knowledge, Indian aspects of Indian knowledge, they are not going to assimilate it. They are not going to be open to assimilating it. So assimilation comes only after the appreciation. And these are fundamental. Unless these happen, you cannot talk of adaptation. Now, the reason why we're talking about adaptation and not straightaway application is because, if you remember, when we spoke about the various 5 aspects, when you have to take this to society, it has to be relevant to the society of that time. So, which means that this has to go through a process of adaptation to meet the needs of present day society. So what is that kind of adaptation, which would mean that not only do you have the knowledge, you have assimilated it, but now you are trying to tune it to present day needs. And it's only after that can you take it out as an application finally, because here is when then you have to tune it as a delivery mechanism for people at large. In adaptation, you are only working in bending it to suit present day needs and perfecting it. But in application is the challenge of a rollout. How do you roll it out to the society at large? What are the challenges then in the rollout? And could there be any negative aspects of rolling this out as well? May have to be studied. So the application of whatever you have adapted is another leg itself, which we call it as application. So from awareness all the way to application, there are aspects to the Indian knowledge system. And when we say an Indian knowledge system, it just does not stop with just studying the subject or conducting the courses and imparting the knowledge to others. It has to be handheld all the way until it can reach the society and bring in the desired benefit for which this particular knowledge is being sought, is being taken out from all our past and is being cleaned up and fine-tuned and adapted and applied. See, there is
See, then this knowledge of India, that's if you got to unleash it, then what do you have to do? First level is a feel good, confidence, not diffidence about the Indian knowledge system. It has to have absolute feel good factor. Then, as she said, then you start application. The application is local for the needs of the society around one. Then you create so that's where the idea of dare comes. So first is confidence, a feel good factor. Next comes a dare to apply it locally. Then comes a connect. You have to connect with it globally too. It can't be limited only to your geographical area or local area alone. You have to be able to globally type and offer global solutions. For that, what is needed is the sharing has to come with an open mind. It's only when that is done, we can really make sustainable breakthroughs to attain it. That's a total new mindset change. And this is a 5-step approach as what we have told here, because the Indian knowledge system has to be really unleashed, because this is a knowledge that has come down to us with practical applications for many millennia. Unfortunately, in the last couple of centuries, it has sort of gone under, but we have to now bring it out confidently and place it before the people. And on this 5-step A, awareness to, we explain the further steps, which you can all read through at your convenience.
Depending on your interest level in this Indian knowledge, you could go through this and see where is it that you fit in, and where is it that you would like to work, and what needs to be done. So we have kind of drawn out what is the state today in the field of IKS, and what actually needs to be done, and how it needs to be done, and what is the significance itself. So starting from the awareness and how it can be reached, and what is the need, the significance. So unless you kindle at the start, this is the start of the IKS chain. You need to kindle at the start of this IKS chain, and then carry this entire thing forward, give them enough confidence, dare, and the urge to be able to take up IKS, only then will they assimilate it, and which are all the ways in which it can be reached out, and what needs to be done, at which levels do we need to. So adaptation, today we have a lot of institutes of higher learning and research community. They have started working on this, but also sufficient needs to be done in the steps prior to this as well, to build up the pipeline to come up to this stage. And because very few will really get here, but to even to get those few, you need to capture a large and slowly filter and bring them up to this, at this level, where they are looking at ability and the aptitude for research to do the adaptation. And finally, when it comes to application, then it is it's a stage where many machineries have to work hand in hand, right from the government to the institutions to the general public at large itself, who are going to consume.
People who form the components of the IKS all got to work together, because it's a something that has gone awry, gone wrong the last more than a few centuries, has to get back, and has to have a place not just within India, but has to have a place in the global polity, the Committee of Nations, and look forward.
So when we talk of IKS, we are really not talking only about subjects. We are not talking only about the Veda, the Upanishad, and so on, but we are talking about a whole gamut of things, right from the local way of doing, right from the Kala Kaushal. Because if you really see, we have given a lot of importance. I'll just like to show this, like we started, I mean, fundamentally, what do you call skills? You call them Kaushal, and it is coming from the aspect of being in comfort. How do you ensure comfort to your body in whichever climate, whichever locale you're living? And how do you therefore develop those skills? And there is actually a beautiful tapestry which shows the 64 arts. So the 64 kala, the 64 skills that have been practiced by this civilization. And these 64 skills, number 64, more or less stays constant from region to region. The actual skills which form these 64 keep varying from region, across different regions.
They vary region to region, they vary century to century, they vary based on attitude, aptitude, and various topological, hydrological features. So what they're saying is there is a body of skills that this land, the civilization has, which makes the land kaushal, sustainable, prosperous. But those skills have to be localized for the local needs of both hydrology and topography and climate. So that's the beauty of it.
Sure, we'll give you the link of this.
The link, actually, we are going to the link only from our website, which is accessible to all of you. That's why we are not doing it from our.
Yeah, I've already put it anyway.
Is there?
Yeah.
So that is the beauty of it. So, of course, so this, when you say 64 Kala, it is not just one size fits all. No, it's such a flexible methodology. Look at this. You had different people talking about 64 Kala through the ages of time, through the land. Just take you some example. You got in Jain philosophy, Bhagavan Rishabdev, Adinath, he speaks about it. He speaks about it in 72 Kala. Gautama Siddhartha excelled it, Mahavira excelled it. And then you got so many people, or Vikramaditya, Varaha Mihira, many people. So what we're trying to say is, but each of their 64 or something started varying. You don't find the same thing across the times. So what you need today as the Kala, the skill, the kaushal is going to be different, which you will have to determine for your times, your needs, your place. That is the beauty of it. Incidentally, there's a book on this also, only on the skills. You can read this later. This is there in our website itself in the mini book section. So we'll not take your time to showcase it, but suffice to say, yes, we have a product. It's available for free read. You can browse through it at your convenience. And look at this. So there's artists, there are craftsmen, there are skilled experts, there are workforce. So look at this. So there's a whole gamut. So when you say Indian knowledge system, it is not limited only to Vedic knowledge. It's knowledge at the ground level. And the 64, as you see.
Ground level, which spanned across the entire land, wherever they lived. So whether they were in the city, the kind of knowledge they needed there, which was fundamentally governed by activities of trade. And then when you look at villages, which was fundamentally governed by activities of production, because they were the production centers, cities were the trading centers. And if you look at other than the villages and the cities, all the other rest of the land, they were fundamentally focused on sustenance. They were sustainability centers. And it is because of the sustainability centers. So today we dismiss many of those skills. We talk of them as illiterate because they have not studied, gone to a proper school and studied.
In the Western system.
But if you look at it, it is, you have a Guru Sishya Parampara there as well. The knowledge of how to sustain these natural resources have been handed down generation to generation to generation. And it is their efforts which actually make the rivers flow today, which have given us the green cover. So fundamentally, if everything else is being sustained, it is also because of the skills and the craft of the people. They know how much to exploit the natural resources and when to leave it. So that is also a skill. So that is also a kala. So these are, and the kind of entire, today we talk about circular production, where you start from the raw and use it completely. There is no waste and so on. So these are people who are skilled in these kind of production techniques. So what is it that we can take out of that and then bring it into forms that are relevant today? Sometimes it may be the art and the craft itself. Sometimes it might be just the principle behind that practice of art and craft that may be relevant, that will be of the need for today. So that discernment is what we will need, and we will have to be like the Hamsa. But all of this is possible only when you know of it, when you understand why they were being practiced, when you understand how they were being practiced. So it is not enough if you know of the knowledge. You need to know how that knowledge was put to use as well. So when you're looking at Indian knowledge system, you cannot look at it as just only a knowledge which is there in some text and you come and you read it. You have to be able to relate it with the history of the civilization, with the past of the civilization, and see how it was holistically applied and therefore what it brought about. And there are some very, very beautiful words which are, a giveaway about this civilization. See, we talk about culture. When we say the culture, the word is kalachar, right? And look at the phonetic as well as semantic closeness between the word culture and kalachar. So both of them phonetically are similar. They are semantically also, they mean the same thing. But what is the word here in this? Achar. Achar are habits. They are the way you do something. So that is achar. And
on a lighter vein, this is not to be mistaken with the achar that is so much available in Delhi. No, not purely on a lighter vein. This is achar, not achar.
so this achar, and it gets fine-tuned as des achar. Many people today, unfortunately, this word has become very rarely used. But there is a word which is called desachar, which means habits and customs which are local to that particular topology. So different regions. So different regions have certain customs that are localized for the local needs and local climes. So that is desachar. So where then comes a kalachar? We always speak about Bharat being a land that has a common kalachar. We are bound by our kalachar, we say. Whether you're in the north, whether you're in the Himalaya, or whether you're near Kanyakumari, or the northeast, or you're in Gujarat, in the sea coast. But you still say you're having the same kalachar, and this is a civilization that is bound by this kalachar. So wherefore does this idea of kalachar come from? So then you have to go to the vichar. So the vichar of this civilization has been that whatever be the region, it is the desachar that has to be respected. So the ultimate importance is to be given to the desachar. That is the vichar which forms the kalachar. So the kalachar is not doing the same 64 kala, doing the same different, same form of customs and doing it the same way. The idea, the kalachar, the commonality is the respect that we give to these individual localized way of practicing things. That is very, very important. So when we look at Indian knowledge system as well, and we look at it as a body of knowledge, we have to understand as to where it is being practiced, how it was being practiced. So the contextuality, and we have seen that there is a lot of contextuality in the language itself. I mean, many of this Indian knowledge system today, many of these trace back to the Sanskrit language, besides being in the local languages as well. Regional languages. And you will also find that across all these languages, there is a commonality, even amongst the language. But in all of this, if you look at it, it is all contextual, and the same kind of contextuality has to be applied even for the knowledge system. So where is this knowledge coming from? Why it was applied? During what times it was applied? That is also very important. It is not just when and why. History is a very big influencer. And therefore, the times when this knowledge was practiced, the way things were done is also extremely important. And that also comes. So when you cannot just pick out any one aspect of the Indian knowledge system alone and say that we have understood it and we are practicing it. You need to do it holistically. And from this today, therefore, these are the challenges that we have as Indian knowledge system, practitioners of Indian knowledge system, people who are going to adopt it and then take it forward. So having said that, on the other side, there is always this kind of a feeling that whatever we are following today, the modern system of education that we follow today is something that has come from the West, yes, and it is totally a product of the West. But now here is where we would like to kind of give you a small bit of information on this aspect. And this is needed because we keep talking about confidence and dare, right? How are you going to develop confidence and dare in our own knowledge system? So we spoke about the British coming and leaving this existing knowledge system of the land. They stopped it totally. They didn't introduce any system. So therefore, for about 100, 150 years, there was a period where there was absolutely no knowledge system. There was no education system at all. So therefore, a couple of generations actually could not get educated either in the old style nor in the new style. So that is what pushed illiteracy up. And but in parallel, when they stopped the Indian system, what was the state of the system in UK? So around 1800, you have. Would you like to?
Yeah, 1800, we had a person by name Dr. Bell and Mr. Lancaster of the East India Company visiting India, especially Madras, where we are now. And they studied the system of schooling in India, in Madras, and found these practices to be very good, and took these practices to England to start a new system of schooling in England. And what is it they did? So there is a story called of Bell. So it says that he writes, Madras gave the school education system to England. So he came to Madras in 1787 with just 128 pounds to deliver some religious lectures to orphan children of soldiers. And he started something called a male military orphan asylum in Madras in those days. And then he watched how the local teachers teach in their Patashala. He learned that this is the old map of where the place is. So he watched how but when he returned, this person Bell, look here, he came with $130 pounds. He returned, the amount of loot that he did in Madras was so much that he returned with about 25,935 pounds in his hand. And he bought an estate for 415 acres in England, and he called it the Madras College. Because, mind you, England had universities then, like Oxford, Cambridge. Those were all theological colleges, but you did not have a school system. So, because you are in the parish schools, so he's introduced a school system in England based on the Indian system of delivery mechanism, for which he is called the author of the Madras system of education, because of which, when he died, he got a place to be buried in the Westminster Abbey, which is meant only for nobility, because he gave that. So that was the way he was able to do this. Having said this, let us look at Mr. Lancaster. He took the system from London and went to New York schools. And he developed schools there, and he called them as the Lancastrian system of education. And there's a document, of course, in New York, he called them as Lancastrian schools, and he developed it based on what? What he learned in Madras and what Mr. Bell had learned in Madras and took here. So they developed school system there. So the Lancastrian system of education in schools in US 2, East Coast, came out of the Indian system. So when you say Indian knowledge system, you recognize that it's not only, we have also given the delivery mechanism, which is what we saw about half an hour back when she showed you all the slides. So that's how they took the system of education. So both of these people, they took it up and developed the world over. So when we say we have a delivery mechanism, that's what we should feel confident of.
See, we have detailed this in one of our books, which is called Breaking the Myths About Society. I'll just show you where the book is. If you go back to the BharathGyan website, you can look at the books. Under the books, you have Breaking the Myths series. So there is one which is Breaking the Myths About Society. And I'm showing you pages from that book. So if you look at it, actually, we had a very, very well-developed 5-tier system. So first, up to age 5, the child was taught at home by his parents. and homeschooling till 5. And then we had Patashala. So there was there used to be local Patshalas in every village. We have a lot of British records which we can show you, which speak about when the British arrived, how there were at least minimum 1 and more Patashalas in every village of this land. And which link do you want, Rajivji? You want the link for this online book? I can.
Yeah, online book. You also link to this book, Breaking Limits Among Society.
The link to the society book itself. So this is for the book on the society, and
which deals with education too.
And this is for the book on the IKS. So every village had at least one Patashala. They have gone on record, and that record is available. Now, after Patashala is when you went to a Gurukula. So this Patashala was for early schooling, and all this by rote, oral teaching and so on. Gurukula, where you had a guru who would then address and explain things to you. So that is where you have all your Upanishad and all those various texts that have come about. So they're all in Gurukula.
Skill education.
And then, and also there is a beautiful thing. We have data. Unfortunately, there's a very short lecture, but we need more time to be able to get into what actually each Gurukula was teaching. And you will find that the Gurukula, I mean, it's not just the Veda alone. Every skills that all these kaushal, the kala that we saw, the skills, there were so many different skills. We have records of, visitors to places like Goa and various other interior regions where they list all the different things that are being taught, their observation of what was being taught in a Gurukul. So that was Gurukul. Then you have the Vidyalaya, which are equal to college. Then you had the Mahavidyalaya. See, many of these terms still exist. We use all of these terms for some of our education institutions. We have Mahavidyalaya and Vishwavidyalaya, which were also international universities. And mind you, we had many of these Vishwavidyalaya. So many of them. We always only talk about Nalanda and Takshashila, but there were many
Vishwavidyalaya.
Vishwavidyalaya.
All over the land. At least probably 40, 50, 100 Vishwavidyalaya, international universities that we had across the land. So this land had developed a delivery system of the Indian knowledge system. So they not only had the Indian knowledge system and structured it, but they also had a very good delivery mechanism. That was the whole thing, was a beautiful tree.
So coming back to the Indian knowledge system, we had so we have to have this confidence and the dare to get on to adapting the Indian knowledge system once again. Just so we need to get back the confidence first in our knowledge system, understand it, understand the ethos in that knowledge system, and understand the ways in which it was first, the knowledge itself was accumulated. How? See, the knowledge just doesn't come anywhere. We showed the honeycomb, right? So people have been working and collecting and compiling that knowledge, that kind of knowledge. So how did they do it? How did they take it out to the students, the target audience? And how did these students then apply it and take it out to society at large? So the entire chain has to be studied and suitably, we should have the dare in us to be able to adopt these ways and practice these ways. So this
Only
confidence and dare, only then, see, we talk about so many sustainable goals, and all of these have been addressed by the civilization, because otherwise, how would we be a continuing, surviving civilization of the world till date after so many millennia? We are one of the civilizations which is called the continuing, surviving civilization. And if to do that, then we would have had to have practiced all these sustainable goals. And so this knowledge is there within the system. How do we bring it out is going to be the challenge. And that will also mark the sustainability of the civilization for the coming centuries.
Because UN has brought out the sustainability development goals. And of all the points they brought out, on each point, if you look at it intrinsically, which is what we have done here, these pages, which we request you to please browse through later, you'll see that all these points have been addressed by IKS through the centuries and millennia. So it's not anything new. They have not come up with a eureka moment and come up with new items. All these have been at local, at the desachar, at the kalachar, at the achar, at the vichar. They've all been addressed in the Indian systems. So we got to apply it for the present day systems, adapt it for present day. So far, we need to have awareness. Only if you have awareness of it, can we start
appreciating
it. And only we appreciate it, we can
assimilate it
within ourselves. Assimilation is within ourselves. Only then we can
adapt it and then apply it successfully.
That is what we have to do now.
So we would like to it's about 5:20. So we can pause here and take some of the questions.
If there are.
Participants can please ask any question they have.
The full book is available for all of you to sort of browse through later. It's away for free browsing. Please do, because all the data has been sort of re-emphasized in easy language for all to easily grasp.
Do we have any questions from the audience?
Yeah. How to access the book? How to access the book? Yeah, I have actually put the link here on the chat. See, you will see the first link, which is MB IKS A2A. You can directly copy that link onto your notepad or something, because once the session is over, I think you may lose the link. So make a copy of it on your local system, and then you can go and directly access it. But otherwise, I can show you, if at all you don't get the link, just remember BharathGyan, and you can go to BharathGyan.com, BharathGyan. Even BharathGyan will take you there. Just go to our website and you will see a icon here which says mini books. So click on mini books. You'll get a lot of books that you can read online. Please feel free to browse through all of them
at your convenience.
So then you come under education.
We have one question in the chat box. How did you get the inspiration to work on this area? Or how were you ignited to understand knowledge in this perspective? Sure. In fact, I was also going to, in some time about to ask you this, that I think your contribution in terms of formation of the website and whatever Professor Ajay had told about both of you, I mean, really it takes untiring, inspiration to sort of march on a journey like this. So yeah, over to both of you. What inspired you?
No, it's all her efforts.
See, actually, we got inspired when we started traveling.
Okay.
So we used to travel when we were in our active profession, IT and management. We were traveling world over and we were looking at various cultures, exhibiting their culture with pride and with awareness. They could hold forth and talk about their civilization, and they were displaying their history very, very confidently, the civilizational culture very confidently, even though they were having information only for a shorter few centuries to display. And whereas then it hit us that we have so much of depth of information, such a vast, diverse amount of information, and we haven't attempted to understand it for today's times and needs, and fundamentally appreciate it. So we've always been dismissing it as old knowledge, traditional knowledge, mythology.
It's all negative words. So we want to bring, because we must have done something right for being the most economically productive civilization for many centuries, or 20, 30 centuries. How did it happen? Because we were doing something right. Continuously, yes, we did fall the last few centuries. That doesn't mean we did not do well for 30, 40 centuries continuously before that. So we have to find out the key in it.
Right, sir.
So we can again become Amrit Kal, can come back again to Bharat.
Absolutely. There's so many compliments flowing, and I'll completely agree with Dr. Surbhi Dhingra also, wherein she's saying that it makes me feel even more proud. I think this journey of these 5 days, we are just being proud each day, about the rich culture and heritage that we have. And also somewhere, just to add to what Dr. Surbhi is saying, just to add that we didn't know about so many things to be proud of. We really were not aware. I think these 5 days has been so overwhelming in terms of the rich information that we all are getting, that there's so much we didn't know. So thanks to each one of the sessions, to each one of you over these 5 days, who have shared such immense knowledge for all of us to be proud of our country. So truly, as I have been saying over these days, I would again reiterate the same thing, that we are truly celebrating the 75 years of, Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav is in its true spirit. I can feel during these, days of the short-term program. Really thanks to again both of you for the same.
Thank you.
Namaste.
Namaskar.
Thank you so much for giving us opportunity, and thanks to Dr. Singh too for inviting.
It's all thanks to Dr. Singh for bringing the two of you over here in front of us and giving us the opportunity to listen to you. Thank you so much, both of you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Namaste.
Namaste. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Any announcements? We'll just repeat the same announcements again for our participants, that if you haven't submitted the NOC by now, please do so, as tomorrow is the last day of the short-term program. And if you have any queries on that, you can write an email to us. Also, after the 2 sessions for tomorrow will be followed by the valedictory, starting from 5:45 to 6:45. We request you to please be there for the valedictory as well. Thank you so much, everyone. See you all tomorrow at 2:30. Thank you.